we're back. Same exact room, except we have an upgrade. We got like Polaroids on the back wall now. Today we're going to be breaking down All in My. That is like the newest release that came out a couple weeks ago. I think the last time we were in here, we were doing Almost Happy, which is crazy because that song today has like 80,000 streams on Spotify. Just Spotify. That's not even counting Apple Music and all the other platforms everyone listens to. And man, I spent a lot of years with not getting a single stream on freaking nothing. It was crazy, you know? So it blows my mind every single day to pull up like Spotify for artists or Apple Music for artists and see that there are like actual people there, and then to look at like Instagram DMs and TikTok DMs and see like real people who are like asking questions and wanting to hear more unreleased music. And man, it is the most indescribable feeling, and I swear to God I will never not be so grateful for it, you know? Anyways, today we're gonna do a stem breakdown of All in My. Got some notes, alright, on how to do this one a little bit better than the other ones. So if we're seeing more improvement here, let me know. Also, if we're not improving, alright, we're working backwards, let me know too. I'll take some criticisms, okay? I don't know what I'm doing here. Honestly, the last editing style was a pain in the ass. I might not get so fancy this time, okay? Without further ado, let's jump into it. This is All in My. So I wanted to start off with kind of like a soft pluck sound. This was made using Serum 2. It's really just a bunch of sine waves with like some noise that's kind of playing underneath it. The real power is like the delay that hits on the plucks. And then we need some accents on top of these little na-na. And this horn sound has just like a very nostalgic feel to it. It pulled me in like right away. Decided to put a little bit of acoustic guitar underneath, just something to kind of fill the space of the synth plucks. And you pair that with the horn and we already start kind of falling into this very like reminiscent feel. Of course, if we're putting in acoustic guitars, we probably need to put an electric with it too. And the electric's just following power chords, very similar to what's happening with the acoustic guitar. This is like the derpiest pluck sound for a bass ever, but for some reason it kind of helps hit those like plucks that we built earlier. Next, we just need some drums. I want it to sound like it was underwater, and they feel kind of boxy, but we layer that with a little rim shot, and all of a sudden we're like back in the past again. It's nostalgic vibes all over again. And that's everything that literally makes up that first verse. When we jump into kind of like the pre-chorus is when it switches up just a little bit more. That same electric is going to come back as well, except it's going to be a little more muted than it was before. Let's double it up with some pianos and some plucks on top. Some impact noises and a little shaker. Nothing fills out composition like a drone. In this case, it's literally just like a little synth pad that's just holding the root notes. But one of my favorite little tricks I've been using recently. So that's a render of just what our drop is. That's the last half of the drop. All we're doing is we're just adding a low pass filter onto it, so it's kind of starting to open up. Alright, shocker. Yep, the camera died. Well, that's all we need to show on our first verse anyways, so we might as well jump to the drop. Let's start with some drums. Alright, first we'll just kind of start off with like a very boxy kick. And there's something kind of beautiful about like imperfect drums. Like they need to have enough space. Gated reverb snare always helps. And then when doing like any future-based stuff, I will always try to layer it with like a stadium sound. Something about like a group of people all stomping and clapping just sounds so anthemic. So we'll do that with crowd stomps and crowd claps. Then when we jump into the second half of the chorus, add kind of like a tuned perk on top of the snare. And that sound alone is just a perk with a bunch of distortion and some reverb on it. You might be wondering what the heck these sounds are. If you take a delay and you manipulate and you record it, it starts to create these really weird time warping sounds. And what I usually do is I'll put that effect on and then I'll just put Edison and record all the sounds that are coming from that plugin rack. I would add a delay, then I'd add Edison. On Edison, I go to on play and arm it. I would hit play. I would then take the recorded version, drag it to a new strip, and I would just chop the elements of it that I really liked. That's how we get those kind of weird glitchy effects. There's no real secret to how that stuff comes together. You just play and you try adding sounds and some stuff just lands better than others. We have some other accents in here, just extra stuff to kind of bring out the impacts. One of my favorite elements of this drop are the violins. You hear them in particular at the very end. gotta give a huge shout out to Melody. She's the one who played violins on this. Part of our process is just have her create stuff. And as a producer, you're more of an editor than anything else, so just being able to have data is arguably more important than having like a defined part. Sometimes just having like different takes, different ideas, different melody approaches changes everything. So I always feel like it's good practice to, not be so set in your own ways and just be open to what other people are down to do, because most of the time they're going to do something freaking awesome, And all together, let's jump into that second verse. Second verse is pretty straightforward. We're back with our electric and our acoustic guitars. We have that same atmosphere from the first verse built back in. We're gonna bring back our sign pluck and those kind of underwater drums that we had used. Don't forget about that like kind of dorky bass pluck and the horn. Alright, I definitely want to highlight some of the strings here. This is a few different layers that are kind of creating this like very whimsical and kind of up-tempo sound that we start to hear. So you'll notice that we have 3 different layers of strings. We have one on hard left, one on hard right, and one right in the center. We layer in our grand piano, and we're right back into drop 2. Now what changes is we decided to add some violins. I probably could have spent a little bit more time tuning them up and syncopating them, but I don't know. There's something kind of beautiful about it not being perfectly on time. Okay, and now we have like the main interlude melody. This is comprised of a few different layers. Alright, so let's take a look at some of these violins. Alright, so if we start with the main melody, that's just panned hard left and hard right. We have another layer right in the center, and then a couple harmonies. And the 2 harmony layers with these, I just made these in Melodyne. So I took the main melody and I raised it up a third, and then I just, kind of placed them where they felt like they needed to be. You put all of them together, and you start getting this really beautiful, like, symphony-esque sound. There's a whole orchestra that's in here now. If you'll remember some of those plucks that we had used in the second verse coming into the drop, they come back as well. And they just kind of help drive the composition forward a little bit more. And lastly, crazy how perfectly the violins sync with it all, And that is all in that's as much as I'm going to get into today. If we want to look at any of the vocal production or sound designy-esque stuff, give me a specific topic to make something about. I know we've had a couple people slide in about some videos they want to get made on this channel, so I think that's everything here. Like last time, I'll give a little snippet of the next one. In the meantime, we'll show a little preview. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. I'll catch you cats later. Peace.